Well, it's almost a new year. 2021 is coming to an end, and what better way to celebrate than reviewing a video game where the world nearly came to an end, but not because of a virus, aliens, or Terminators, but due to a giant asteroid crashing down to Earth and awakening dinosaurs and monsters that came to reclaim the new Earth. Today we'll be reviewing 3 ports of Primal Rage. Originally an arcade game, Primal Rage was developed and published by Atari Games in 1994. We are looking at 3 ports of this game, but Primal Rage was nearly ported to every console, and I mean everything down to the Amiga. Now before we get into the ports and review, it goes without saying that Primal Rage is a legendary one-of-a-kind arcade fighting game, and stands out in a way other arcades didn't at that time, due to each dinosaur and creature looking super realistic for 1994. And this was due to the painstaking details taken in development of the game, having each monster made by hand with models and stop animation. Not only that, but the arcade cabinet was gorgeous and stood out among the sea of other arcade games, looking like a charred piece of earth with molten lava running down the front. The plot of the game is an asteroid comes crashing down to Earth, and since Bruce Willis was busy that day, humanity was nearly destroyed, and those who remained reverted into caveman-like tribes, as the Earth's continents merged. And as this was all going on, 7 dinosaur-like beasts arose out of the Earth. Now it's a fight to the death in order to rule this new Earth. I can't help but chuckle every time I see New Earth. I get that they had to come up with something to call the planet after all of this, but Earth just seems like they were all high in a conference room and were like, Earth, but with a U. As you traverse the different parts of New Earth and defeat your fellow monsters, you gain worshippers when you conquer their land. The amount of worshippers you obtain is based on how well you did in the fight, from combos pulled off, to specials used, and even down to eating rival worshippers, which is always satisfying. First up, the PlayStation port. This is probably the best / worst of all the Primal Rage ports. First off, it looks pretty damn close to the arcade, which is great. But what kills me is how the loading times are so long and break up the fluidity of the game. You just beat a monster and then bam, load time. That freezes the game and makes you think it crashed. Not only that, but there has been full sound effects and music removed from the game, such as monster noises and songs that would play if you got a flawless victory. The AI of the game is downright dirty. If you end up wrecking your opponent, the AI will adjust itself to make sure that no matter what you end up doing, the computer will block every attack from any angle, no matter what, even special moves. It will purposely make sure to run down the time clock so you're not given the satisfaction of pulling off a fatality. Not only that, but the PS1 port is unstable. I was streaming this and almost had the game beat when this happened. It's like quarters of your life every time the tail hits you. Whoa! What the fuck? What the hell is going on here? The Matrix has you, Neo. Why is it every time I ever stream a game, somehow I always end up breaking the game? Every single time. You guys have witnessed it how many times now? When I play a video game and I stream it, somehow I end up breaking the game. The game's broken. On a scale of 1 to 5, I give the PS1 port a 3. Now moving to the Super Nintendo port. This was the version I grew up with, and still have a lot of nostalgia for. In this port, the whole opening cutscene of the game was removed. To be honest, it had been so long since I'd played a port that had the opening cutscene of the game that I had forgot it existed. The monster sprites were shrunken, and now the levels seem to be more wide and open. The huge difference of this port compared to the PlayStation 1 port is there is no lag whatsoever, and the game is quick and responsive. It does get a graphical downgrade, and the colors seem to be a bit more watered down, but there is no argument that this port does its job in giving you a fun arcade fighter experience. What I am surprised about is Nintendo had the fatality for Chaos peeing acid on his foe's corpse fully removed from the game, deeming it too much. Why I'm shocked about this is because they kept everything else, from hearts exploding, neck bone snapping, and brain damage fart clouds to another monster's face. On a scale of 1 to 5, I give the Super Nintendo port a 4. Now last but not certainly least, that title would go to the worst port of Primal Rage the board game. We now move on to Primal Rage on Game Boy. My copy looks as if Chaos peed acid on the sticker. This port of the game is probably the biggest step down as far as gameplay, but that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody since it's the Game Boy. The biggest differences here is the roster was cut down from 7 to 6. Sorry, Vertigo. And all the worshippers have been removed from the game. Due to the limitations of the Game Boy, the movesets were drastically cut down, but surprisingly each monster still has a couple special moves they could perform, if you could ever figure out how to do them because you're playing Game Boy. What I'm most confused about is why they cut out Vertigo. They already had 2 of the T-Rex monsters and 2 of the gorilla type fighters, so why not cut out one of them? I ask this because when you're playing the game, if you aren't playing as Armadon or Talon, it's nearly impossible to figure out who you're playing as. In the other ports, it was easy to tell what character you were because of the colors obviously, but also the height difference. In the Game Boy version, they all look the same, and the pea soup green color doesn't help. On a scale of 1 to 5, I give the Game Boy port a 2. In conclusion, I loved Primal Rage as a kid, and still love it today. It was such a different fighter compared to everything else at the time, and due to this, the arcade always seemed to be open due to most kids just wanting to play Mortal Kombat. It's a bit sad to see this game fall into obscurity and only be talked about in the circles of the hardcore old arcade fans, but I have a hope that one day we will finally get to see the long-awaited sequel in modern day. On a scale of 1 to 5, I give the Primal Rage arcade cabinet a 5. The game was outstanding and played great. The story was short and amusing, and filled with monster ass-kicking action with loads of gore that Mortal Kombat fans should have given more credit to. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the new year on the next game review. This is Forrest, this is Retro or Die. Have a happy new year. I love this game. God, I love this game. I love the heart explosion animation so much. It is so cool. Looks like someone took a stewed tomato and threw it against the screen. Anyway. Ivan, you can get the SNES cart for $10? Dude, if you can get the SNES cart for that much money, then I would get it. This is just a must-own game if you like fighters in general. This was a very well-made fighting game. It's just sadly completely forgotten about.